The system promised her that as long as she could cultivate to the peak of the righteous path in this world, she would choose a beautiful, idle, and indifferent old ancestor to be her next time. For this reason, Ling practiced for 100 years in the previous world. Hard work pays off to those who have a heart. But when a shattered sect appeared in front of her, filled with sorrow, she still stiffened. The sect needs to be rebuilt by her, and the territory taken must be regained by her. There is no one in the entire sect who can fight with thin arms and legs. Ling isn't she using a poorly crafted script? This is obviously going to open up land. From then on, when the sect heard the rooster, they would rather exhaust themselves than involve others. Ancestor touched the head of a disciple and said, "Among the scrolls, you are the highest person. Remember, you are the most curled child in the whole continent." The disciple's blood is boiling. Sect elders. How do I feel that the way our ancestors look at us is a bit disdainful? Probably because we don't have enough volume. Master of a certain sect. Patriarch, it's time to rest. Opponent. Take a break, didn't you see that the red spirit ancestor from the opposite sect is still drawing talismans? Great, the entire cultivation world has been rolled up since then. Note. This continent is called Xiantian, and its realms are divided into refining qi, building foundation, golden elixir, yuanying, transforming spirit, refining void, combining, Mahayana, crossing calamity, and ascending. Keywords of the novel. Lao Tzu engages in inner competition without pop-ups in the Cultivation of Immortals. Lao Tzu engages in inner competition in the Cultivation of Immortals. Download the complete text, and read the latest chapters in the Cultivation of Immortals. Chapter 1. The Defeated Daoist Sect. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. The defeated Daoist sect Ling has finally cultivated into an immortal. For this day, she has been diligent for 100 years. Finally able to reach out with his shirt, open his mouth for food, and embrace the happiness of a beautiful man. Wait. Where is this? Ling looked at the 5 or 6 old men with patched clothes below. I couldn't help but remind the system, I made a mistake, it should have been passed to the beggar's sect. The system got stuck for a rare moment. The system shows no errors. Considering the host's good performance in the previous world, the reward skill is accompanied. Memory transfer in progress. You wait first. System task completed, unbinding in progress. Unbind successful. The system disappeared extremely cleanly, fearing that if left late, it would be forced to stay here with this unlucky host. The abandoned Ling blushed and left 2 lines of tears. Is there a mistake? What she wants is to ruin her ancestral life. How can this small, broken sect that eats mantu meet her requirements? Still a small broken sect preparing to break up. System, you better not let her catch you. The following heads whispered to each other. My ancestor cried so miserably, can't she bear to part with us? You're still too young. My ancestor is probably thinking about which old ancestor to look for later. It's also possible that after feeling sad, no one will serve her anymore. It's also possible that I feel like the scattered members of the sect have too little money. Ling. Someone sighed and said, if it weren't for those grandsons taking our territory, why would we have fallen to the point of disbanding our sect? Don't even say it. Leader Lin Yunxiu waved his hand and said that so much is useless, but it can't be defeated. Putting a small bag containing a spirit stone at Ling's feet, he quickly took a few steps back and said earnestly, Ancestor, in the future, live alone. Don't spend money recklessly anymore, no one will give you pocket money. If you really can't support yourself, I mentioned that before. Nunnery, it's also quite good. Don't worry about it. No one will dislike you. Ling. As he spoke, he choked up a bit, as if he had raised an uneasy thing for a long time, and now suddenly wanted to let it go. In the end, he felt a bit reluctant. Don't say we are not filial to you, we will eventually leave you. You need to learn to be independent. Ling sharpened her teeth. The name of this sect is Daoist sect, Daoist, and its development has not tarnished this title. It is a vast eastern branch and the last sect. Besides, the original body she was wearing was the most prominent and bizarre existence in the entire cultivation world. The ancestors of other families are all characters with high spiritual power, immortal demeanor and backbone, like the ancestors of the town sect. And the original body, after practicing for thousands of years, is still in the stage of refining chi. It's just about refining chi, but for some reason, she's always youthful, growing up like an old king. She never dies of a thief's heart and wants to improve her cultivation through double cultivation. Coupled with her stunning appearance, she has seduced many men from different sects on her own. But the last one didn't succeed. It's not that she doesn't want it, but those men start to get unlucky as soon as they get close to her, hold her hand, decrease her cultivation, hug her, and lose half of their lives, let alone anything else. Everyone was scared out of their wits, avoiding her like a plague god. Fortunately, her small and broken sect is quite kind. No matter how absurd and shameful her ancestors may be, they still rely on their meager sect income to support this living fossil. Their only hope is that she will not go out and collude casually to harm people. The days of such support are also coming to an end today. Everyone said that it was her bad luck that brought the Daoist sect to this land. As Lin Yunxiu turned around and walked away, Ling stopped him and said, "Leave the accounts of Daoism for the past few years." Lin Yunxiu glanced at her suspiciously and said, "The ledger is in the accounting room, you need to go and retrieve it yourself." Ling nodded and a faint light flashed in her beautiful eyes. She said the last sentence, "I'm right here. If you have nowhere to go, remember to come back." Lin Yunxiu opened his mouth. How could it possibly come back? Even the territory has been taken by someone. He instinctively thought this way and suddenly squinted again. According to the plague god physique of our ancestor, perhaps there are some taboos among the people of the Wan family. It's not certain if we can arrange a place for her to live. On this thought, he was happy again. It would be great if those grandsons could be separated from their ancestors before leaving. So he didn't say anything, picked up the patched small package and went down the mountain. I haven't had a good rest for 100 years, and Ling slept soundly. But no matter how heavy it was still awakened by some people who didn't have long eyes. "You guys, go ahead and demolish that pavilion. What's your taste? From now on, this mountain will be the spiritual planting ground for all families." What a fuss, it's making her ears ache. She opened her eyes and before she could do anything, suddenly a frightened male voice came out, "Sleeping trough, why didn't Daoism take this disaster away?" Disaster, spirit. Are you polite? Is this the legendary plague god who has lived for tens of thousands of years but has not yet broken through the process of refining chi? A group of people gathered around and looked at her strangely from a distance. Not to mention, it looks really good. Not bad, it's useless. I don't know how to be shameless. I heard that someone from our family has been colluded with by her. People over 10,000 years old, this is too disgusting. Before they could finish speaking, a group of people were swept away by an unbeatable force. The woman was dressed in a red robe like a maple, with one knee bent up and her slender arm propped up on it. She turned her head to look at it, and a pair of pitch-black eyes wrapped in a chill. "What are you saying?" "I didn't hear you clearly," she said. The disciples of 10,000 families, who were severely injured by a simple palm slap, were stared at by such a pair of eyes, cold all over their bodies, rubbing their buttocks against each other and retreating in succession, looking at the person in front of them like ghosts. Isn't it just the chi refining period? Are there any golden core cultivators among them who were slapped away? What should we do? This old thing is a bit strange. Let's withdraw first. When the elder arrives, she will feel better. A few people discussed openly for a while, then turned around and ran down the mountain. Ling shook her head, and white light rushed out of her fingertips, turning into ropes. She twisted the ankles of several people and dragged them back like dragging corpses. The woman's voice was cold and smiling, like a ghost. Let you go. The first group of people who went to the mountain did not return for a long time, and Wanbai felt a bit anxious. This bunch of useless things, he spat and cursed, turning his head to the people behind him. First push these spiritual plants up the mountain, and soon it will be the Alchemy Masters' Conference. The development of the spiritual plant field must be fast. For the territory of Daoist, there are many external forces staring at it. If it cannot be won in a day, there will be variables in a day. The wheels rolled on the ground, making a creaking sound, especially clear in the lonely and pitch-black night. The buildings on the mountain were full of dilapidation, like haunted houses that had not been inhabited for hundreds of years. The few people who had just climbed the mountain couldn't help but rub their arms and their backs were slightly furrowed. Wanbai scanned the surroundings but didn't see any trace of those boys. He gritted his teeth in hatred and said, "Where are you going to be lazy again?" Ah! Someone in their ear let out a short scream of surprise. Wanbai was very irritable, with a fierce and violent face. What the hell is going on? Believe it or not, I'll cut you off. Senior brother, look over there. One person trembled and pointed in a certain direction. Wanbai impatiently turned his head and met a pair of interested eyes. The woman was dressed in red, with extremely white skin and black hair hanging down her waist, sitting in a small pavilion, reading by candlelight. Seeing them, I suddenly smiled and curved my eyes. The words I said were chilling, someone's here again. Wanbai. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Is it really not allowed to enter? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. Is it really not allowed to enter? Wanbai met the lazy people in his mouth as he wished. Each of them has a swollen face like a fat man, climbing up and down to build a house, with incredibly nimble hands and feet. Seeing them also coming, tears of sadness and despair flowed from my eyes. Wanbai, who was tied up in various ways and had a swollen face and blue nose, said, Wanbai's face was extremely sinister, and he couldn't figure out why things had turned out like this. Isn't this woman in the chi refining period? Why is she so powerful? Lin Yunxiu dared to act recklessly. He promised to take everything away and make sure to deal with him when he comes back. How do you know I'm missing these? It's so considerate of you to personally deliver them. Ling happily glanced at the spiritual plants of Shui Lingling on their car. Who sent it to you specifically? Shameless. A few people roared inwardly. Before she could finish roaring, she bent down with a faint gaze and a smile on her face, staring at them. Work hard, don't run away, understand? The tone was very gentle, but in everyone's ears, it was. Work for me to death, and once I run away, break my legs, understand? Wanbai nodded and said, I understand. The other few people looked at him in surprise. When did senior brother Wanbai become so obedient? Wanbai coldly glanced at them, a group of pigs with brains. He was pushing back and procrastinating. Do you understand? At most tomorrow, Wan Jia will definitely discover the clues. He just needs to persevere until that time. Why confront this crazy woman and suffer for nothing? Seeing that senior brother Wanbai had already surrendered, the others nodded eagerly. It is said that an old maid who has been holding it for more than 10 years will become abnormal. This one who has been holding it for tens of thousands of years. Dare not provoke or provoke. And can you not be so close to us? I'm so scared. So in the middle of the night, on Mount Daozong, there were people building houses and farming. Those who didn't know thought it was haunted. Ling sat on the side, flipping through the ledger in her hand, her mouth curved with pleasure. Turns out these sects owe a lot of money to Daoist. As dawn approached, a few people finally got permission to sleep on the ground for a while. Ling stayed up all night, but her whole body was full of energy, with bright and lively eyes, and an excited expression of wanting to do something. She casually drew a few talismans and patted them on the forehead of the disciples of the Wan family, urging them to work. Red clothes fluttering, walking down the mountain. Yunzhou Wanjia, she's here. No one on the street doesn't know Ling. Women seem to be looking at something dirty, while men are both wary and drool over her. Ling's mentality was so strong that he calmly walked to the doorstep of thousands of households. Yunzhou, occupying the largest territory of the entire Dongmai, has a top power that can be summarized as 3 sects, 2 tribes, and 1 cabinet. Sanzong, Yunzong, Daoyenzong, and Heishuizong. 2 ethnic groups, the Wan family and the Lu family. 1 pavilion, listening to the Wind Pavilion. As one of the top 6 powerful families, one can imagine how grand their mansion is. Even if it is located here, it can give people a silent deterrent. Ling squinted her eyes and looked at the 2 big lions at the door with jealousy. She is poor and eats dirt, these people are so luxurious. Everyone is so rich, yet they still owe money. They deserve to be struck by lightning. The 2 guards at the entrance of Wanjia saw her from a distance, silently hoping that she was just passing by. However, the plague god had taken root in front of their door and looked at the 2 pairs of stone lions with that inexplicable and eerie gaze. What kind of look is that in her eyes? How does it feel like she wants to dismantle the lion? Hush, don't even say. What did you say she did? Let me tell you, yesterday Daoist was gone. She shouldn't have come to our place. To find someone, right? No way, who dares to take her? The dying spirit monster has really good hearing. She walked up to the point and said, I'm looking for Wan Hongwan. The 2 guards widened their eyes with a look of, how could you possibly have had an affair with the master of the house if you fabricated something? Ling. Seeing the head of the house, there must be a bowing invitation. The 2 of them took 2 steps back in disgust, no one is allowed to enter. Ling smiled and said, are you really not allowed to enter? Seeing her strange smile, the 2 of them exchanged a glance at each other and shook their heads hesitantly. Then don't blame me. Ling's right hand, which was hanging on her side, suddenly grabbed towards the side, causing the ground to crack. The stone lion was like a huge pendulum, controlled by her, and crashed into the grand gate of countless families. Roaming. With a loud bang, the entire gate of every household was smashed to pieces, and the empty courtyard directly connected to the densely packed streets outside. The onlookers took a deep breath. Is this still the gas refining waste? It feels like Lin Daiyu is being pulled out by Li Kuei's upper body and drooping willows. The people working in the Wan family courtyard turned their heads and stared at the courtyard with a hole exposed, all stunned. Just during the refining period, you're looking for death. Upon reflection, the 2 guards were furious, and the strength of the high-level foundation building exploded with a ferocious expression, killing Ling. Ling helplessly. She just came to ask for a debt, it's not good to have to shout and kill like that. She swatted the 2 of them away like mosquitoes and drifted lightly into Wanfu. What exactly is this situation? The people on the street were chaotic in the wind. Did this junk dim sum finally break through its potential? But looking at her, it seems like she hasn't even used her spiritual power much. She must be pretending. Wanjia is not just a place to act wild. We'll wait and see what happens to her. But we can't get in. Suddenly, someone let out a mournful cry. Everyone, look at me, look at you. In the next second, those who can fly with swords are all competing to fly into the sky, leaving only a group of refined chi staring down. Ling solved another group of guards and walked through the huge pavilions, wondering, strange, where have all the experts from the 10,000 mansions gone? Unless she died, it was impossible not to hear such a big commotion, but so far, she has not seen a single golden elixir or yuaning. As she was considering whether to come back another day, her extremely keen divine sense suddenly caught a faint, imperceptible sob. It looks like it was sent out by some spiritual beast. She closed her eyes and felt for a moment, then walked straight in a certain direction. Wanfu underground. Master, the lascivious plague god ancestor of Daoist has barged in. It seems that her strength has greatly increased, and the external guards cannot stop her. Tears of sweat rolled down Wan Hongwan's forehead as he stared intently at the behemoth in front of him. Upon hearing the words, he became quite angry and said, "Damn it. Just come and join the fun at this moment. But I'm sorry she couldn't find it here either. Don't worry about her for now, everyone increase their spiritual power and quickly tidy up this thing." End of this chapter. Chapter 3 is all about sacrificing some beauty. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3 is all about sacrificing some beauty. More than 10 golden pills from 10,000 families, separated in various places, with red faces, jointly maintaining a blood-red formation. In the formation, surrounded by a scarred ice-colored phoenix, extremely weak, with a pair of ice-blue amber-like eyes, numb and ethereal, slowly being stripped of divine consciousness. Wan Hongwan's eyes lit up with ecstasy. It's fast, it's fast. As long as he takes this ice phoenix, with its blood and body, not only will he enter the ranks of 5th-grade alchemists, but the entire Wan family can ascend to the sky with one step. When the time comes, what kind of cloud sect or listening to the wind pavilion? It's all bullshit. He, who had fallen into madness, naturally did not see it. In the eyes of the trapped beast, there was a suppressed shame and a cold killing intent surging. Suddenly, the ground shook eerily. Quickly returned to calm. Wan Hongwan's eyelids twitched and he frowned. What was the situation above? He never imagined that the whole family would be overthrown by someone. On the sky, dark clouds cover thousands of miles and roll into a huge tornado, with silver snakes darting inside. The huge opening of the tornado is facing the small mansion of thousands of families, as if the Milky Way has broken through its gates. Pop! The people inside and outside the mansions of all families were frightened to the point of losing their blood and soul. They struggled to resist the urge to run away with tenacious determination. Various forces, with the strongest emerging, can clearly see the movement from afar, and the expression on the back of the red-clothed figure is particularly complex. If they were, could they bring such a wide range of celestial phenomena? It's almost there. Ling withdrew her hand and calmly retreated a few hundred meters. The red dress is flamboyant, independent of heaven and earth, waving and calling. Boom boom boom. Amidst the sky, silver thunder suddenly fell. Wanjia smashed countless treasures, meticulously designed dungeons were lifted like thin paper, stones flipped over, dust filled the sky, and the terrifying destructive power made countless people's eyes skip a beat. Almost done. Ling quickly slapped and scattered the thunder layer. She just came to watch the excitement, and it wouldn't be good to bang the people to death. Observing the crowd. Is this the god of plague or the god of evil, who can summon the power of heaven and earth at will? How much has her strength increased during this period? Ling jumped to the edge of the giant pit and leaned out to look down. Coincidentally, there were more than a dozen stunned and panicked pale faces. What's going on here? Even the phoenix in the formation, with a pair of weak and indifferent eyes, flashed a hint of astonishment. Ling squeezed out a friendly smile and said, "Keep going, I'll take a look." Everyone from all walks of life said, "Do you believe this on your own?" "Yay." At this moment, a sudden mutation occurred. A phoenix cry echoed throughout the world, shaking the heavens and earth. Divine Beast. The strong onlookers nearby, especially those from the 5 major powers, changed their faces, their eyes lit up, and they were fierce and greedy. Unexpectedly, these 10,000 families have hidden a divine beast. Shwa shwa shwa. Several figures rushed in, encircling the sky above Wanfu. Ran Ling looked up and swept away, feeling happy. There are really many people joining in the fun. In that formation, the Ice Phoenix's aura suddenly rose, breaking through the divine transformation and stepping into the refining void. A golden pattern appeared on her eyebrows, noble and full of violence. Several golden pills were severely injured by the backlash, and the formation almost collapsed. Someone exclaimed in amazement, surprisingly, it's still the royal bloodline of the Ice Phoenix. The eyes of those around me became increasingly hot. This beast is willing to break through the shackles of cultivation even if it harms its original source. Wan Hongguan's eyes were torn apart, his eyes were red and congested, and his cultivation during the transformation period exploded. Hold on, don't let it break through the formation. Damn it. Today may be difficult to do well. He glared fiercely at Ranling, whose face was covered in good play, and his resentment overflowed. Ranling looked at him innocently and stared at her for what? Master, I can't hold on anymore. The rest of the faces were as white as paper, and their spiritual power was almost exhausted. They can barely cope with the transformation of the gods, but this is the realm of refining emptiness. And this phoenix is clearly going crazy. Ice Phoenix's eyes were stained with blood, and her wings spread out with determination and anger, transforming into a stream of light, like a meteorite falling to the ground, rushing out towards the vast array of eyes. Wan Hongguan was extremely unwilling, his teeth were about to break, but he could only announce, everyone, withdraw the formation. If you persist any longer, if someone Huang Ke is behind, Wan Jia will suffer heavy losses. Everyone in the family breathed a sigh of relief and quickly withdrew their strength, quickly hiding away. The Ice Phoenix soared into the sky, clearly intending to escape. Stop it. Everyone in the Lu family is following orders, stop it. Lu Qinyan, the head of the Lu family, shouted outside. Blackwater Sect refused to be outdone. Blackwater Sect disciples, take that phoenix. It seems that my Daoyen Sect is going to intervene too. The head of Daoyen Sect's chubby face showed a hint of hesitation, but he immediately gritted his teeth and ordered, take it. How could such a lively event be without me, Ting Feng Gu? A man wearing a silver mask in Ting Feng Gu let his hand down to catch the phoenix while smiling and looking towards the direction of Yunzong. Elder Sujio, won't you take action? Sujio smiled and shook his head, his gaze calmly scanning Ran Ling. The Cloud Sect, won't participate, he said. Ran Ling was extremely excited. The 6 major forces, except for the devastated Wanjia and the calm Yunzong, have all taken action, along with some scattered cultivators. This trip is lively. Just pity that little phoenix. The silver-faced man noticed Su Jio's gaze and turned to Ran Ling, covering his disgust. He changed his usual avoidance attitude and smiled, saying, Ran girl. Isn't she interested? No matter how shameless this woman is, through what happened just now, he will no longer take her for granted. Cloud Sect crowd. Everyone from all walks of life said, Ran, girl. Ran Ling was also disgusted and lifted her eyelids to look at him. Hush. People who have been seduced by their original bodies. The whole person almost cracked open, and she walked to the side with her sleeves in her hand. She said coldly, call me Lao Shen, Master Ran Ling. Silver-faced man. How can this woman change at any time? The last time we met, she called her baby and wished she could stick to him. This time, she directly became an old nun, turning her face away and not recognizing anyone. His fingertips trembled with anger. Ran Ling decided to stay away from this naughty man and flew into mid-air, searching for an excellent battlefield to watch. After saying a few words on this side, the Ice Phoenix was like a turtle in a jar, surrounded by several major forces and unable to escape. Ice Phoenix was already seriously injured and forcefully operated on its original source. Its body was already riddled with wounds and holes. It looked at the greedy crowd around it, its noble and cold eyes full of unwillingness. It would rather die than hand over its flesh and blood to such a group of people. Just as it was about to plead for death, for some reason, it suddenly saw a person. The woman was dressed in red, with her back against the sky, standing tall in the air, bold and unrestrained. Her eyes were clear with a smile, as if nothing had entered her eyes. A fairy with extremely strong cultivation. If she is willing to help it, this danger can be resolved. It's just. If she doesn't look like she's watching a good movie, that would be even better. It pursed its lips and remembered what those people had said before. A lascivious plague god. Lust, it's just that. It closed its eyes, struggled to break through the encirclement, flapped its wings and swept out. Ling was watching the play well when suddenly she felt something was wrong. She turned around and looked behind her. There was no one there. Why did this little phoenix fly towards her? Before I could react, I was embraced by someone with a bloody smell and aroma. She cracked open again. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. What realm are you in? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. What realm are you in? What kind of situation is this? She's just a movie-goer, how did she suddenly become the protagonist? The people around seemed to have cracked open, opening their mouths and digesting the explosive scene before them. Ling tugged at his collar and distanced herself from him. Her skin is as smooth as jade, with distant eyebrows and a sharp nose. Her eyelashes are thick, and her hair, which transitions from silver white to light blue, looks even more stunning and thrilling. Disaster water. She couldn't help but seriously ponder whether her reputation for being lascivious had already spread to the divine beast realm. So why didn't he hear that holding her would cost half his life? Ice Phoenix's move directly stunned countless people. On the one hand, it is speculated that this phoenix is seeking death and dares to approach the god of plague. On the one hand, I am also thinking about the relationship between the lecherous plague god and the beautiful phoenix. Hongguan laughed the most wildly on the side and said, "The methods of Master Ling are really extraordinary. Even the divine beast can bow down under his skirt, which broadens one's horizons." Ling was distracted and replied to him, "People who owe money are not worthy to speak. Close your mouth." Hongguan. When did he go into debt? Su Jiao stood not far from Hongguan. Upon hearing these words, he couldn't help but shudder and hold back a smile. Fortunately, in the past, Sect did not snatch anything from a sect, otherwise he might have faced such treatment as well. Silently, the forces that were originally besieging Ice Phoenix gradually gathered towards Ling from all directions. Perhaps they were a bit wary of the methods used by Ling before, and they didn't rush to take action. The head of Daoist's sect was playing with 3 copper coins in his hand, still wearing a charitable smile. It seems that the elder Ling is also quite interested in this phoenix. He said. "No, she doesn't." Ling glanced at him but didn't speak. The silver-faced man frowned and glanced at the phoenix, Ling. "Ancestor, you really want to wade through this muddy water? If you leave now, we won't make it difficult for you." Ling. When did she say she wanted to go through this muddy water? Ice Phoenix seemed to sense Ling's intention, her thick eyelashes trembling slightly. She opened her eyes, revealing a deep blue gaze in the pitch black, staring closely at her. Her slender hand grabbed Ling's collar, her voice low and magnetic, but unable to conceal her weakness. "Take me away," she said. Ling. She had to ask him, "Do you have money?" Xiaheng tilted his head, leaned against her shoulder, and closed his eyes tired. "I'm very good at making money," he said. "The meaning is that there is no money now." She looked at his overly natural movements and felt speechless, then asked, "What's the benefit of me taking you away?" The other person opened their eyes again and looked at her with a complicated expression. "Anything but freedom and life is fine." Ling. What does your expression of enduring humiliation and being forced to sacrifice mean? She hasn't made a decision yet, and someone has become impatient waiting. Hongguan said, "Everyone, with the urine nature of this ancestor, how could he let the fat run into his mouth? Although this phoenix was previously captured by our one family, if we catch it today, we can all share it equally." Ling. Did she dig up the grave of this old boy's ancestors or collude with them, targeting her like this? Wait, it seems that his ancestors were. Ling's expression became strange. "I dare not think." Others glanced at each other, each with their own calculations, and no one spoke. The silver-faced man sneered and said, "It's better to say goodbye. There's only one phoenix like this, and I still want to keep it in the wind pavilion. Whoever catches it will have it." Hongguan's face instantly turned ugly. "You're right." The leader of the Blackwater sect burst out laughing, with a sinister smile, and said word by word, "Whoever snatches it will be theirs." As soon as he finished speaking, he had turned into a stream of light, with a flame of broken stones piercing through the air, diving towards Ling like a falcon. Blackwater sect disciple, quickly take down the two of them. Yes. Dozens of figures from the Blackwater sect moved together. The silver-faced man slowly curled his lips. "So why not let you take action first?" Ling sighed. "Anyway, they owe a lot of debt to Daoist, and sooner or later they have to start working on it." She lowered her eyes and said, "Hold on tight, I'm not responsible for falling." Xie Heng let out a low hum and wrapped his arms around the woman's slender waist. The killing intent during the period of transformation has reached the level of face. Ling lifted her left hand, white light shrouded in mist, and her strength was immense. Ding! As if colliding with steel, the leader of the Blackwater sect was bounced back, taking dozens of steps with a thud. His arms were numb and his eyes were incredulous. "What kind of realm are you?" Not long ago, but a few days ago, he was very clear that this person was in the period of refining qi. How could he have become so strong that he didn't see him in a few days? Ling, who remained motionless, was very humble and said, "I'm just a little taller than you." The leader of the Blackwater sect gritted his teeth as he looked at his disciples who were casually thrown away and said, "I believe you're a ghost. This woman has ghosts. Don't wait any longer, let's take them down together first, and then each one can rely on their abilities." Yunzong had no intention of interfering, and the other four major forces looked at each other with a solemn expression, nodding one after another. In an instant, the air battlefield of Wanjia was filled with wind and clouds, and countless figures attacked and killed the two people in the center. The sky suddenly darkened. Hongguan's face was grim and he shouted loudly, "Let's surrender." The wind blade cut through the red skirt, and Ling's right hand held onto the waist of the person in her arms. The majestic power was like a vast ocean, and her lips opened and closed one by one. "Ling Yuan, annihilate." Bang! Like a nuclear bomb exploding, the huge aftermath slashed the mountains and countless buildings collapsed. Suzhou's eyes showed surprise, and he quickly led his disciples of the Cloud sect out of the battlefield. "It's over, it's over. Now my ancestor is really dead." There were many former disciples of the Daoist sect among the onlookers, who couldn't bear to glance at them. Almost everyone believes that the dying spirit will definitely die. Touch and touch. The next second, like making dumplings, thousands of people were bounced out and fell to the ground, their lives unknown. Even Hongguan, the silver-faced man, Lu Qinyan and others were shaken back hundreds of steps, seriously injured, and their faces turned pale. "It's too strong. That's not a force they can match at all." "What?" Suzhou, who was watching, widened his eyes and suddenly developed goosebumps. Even their sect leader may not be able to use such means. Sleeping slot. Everyone was stunned by this result, their mouths wide open, struggling to digest this shocking fact. Did you win the gas refining period under the siege of thousands of people? There can be 4 or 5 deification periods and thousands of yuan in golden core cultivators inside. Are they crazy and experiencing hallucinations? Just as everyone was eagerly anticipating to see the figure in red, the dust finally dissipated and the two disappeared without a trace. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Catchman Game. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5 Catchman Game. The sudden increase in the power of the plague god, who stole the beautiful phoenix and disappeared without a trace, spread like wings throughout the entire Dongmai within a few days. If you stop at will on the street, you can hear the discussion of this matter being passed down from person to person. And the content is gradually becoming distorted and developing in an uncontrollable direction. Have you heard about it? The phoenix has long been in love with the lecherous plague god. The plague god specifically runs to save him. The plague god, who was refining chi, unexpectedly unleashed his potential for the phoenix and directly hardened the 6 top powers. Wow, it feels a bit affectionate. Several major forces have been searching for a long time, but haven't found the plague god and phoenix yet. Maybe the two of them eloped long ago, and the anti-orthodox sect has long disbanded. But I heard that there is an extremely powerful barrier at the gate of Daoist sect, and even a few large groups cannot open it together. Maybe those two are hidden inside. Blackwater sect, Blackwater's is a famous healing holy land. Above the black water source the size of a lake, there grow various tall and bizarre plants, colorful and layered, covering the ice-colored phoenix that is dedicated to healing. Not far away on a rock, Ling sat with her knees bent, playing with a thin stone in her hand, and said to the Blackwater sect elder in front of her with a bitter face, "Elder, smile. What are you doing with a bitter face?" Elder Heishui. He rolled his eyes. Smile. Am I really laughing? If you were to be robbed of your territory, money, and tied up with all kinds of things for no reason, would you be happy? Ling said with a serious heart, 10 to 10 times life is not satisfactory, you have to find happiness on your own. Elder Heishui. It's okay, there's nothing to talk about with someone with an abnormal brain. You guys have a pretty good place here, Ling said casually as she looked around, her eyes shining. The elder of Blackwater sect became vigilant and stared at her carefully. What does that mean? According to this person's urinary habits of kidnapping and searching for money, he strongly doubted the purpose of her words. Ling stared at him and suddenly smiled. 3 years ago, the Blackwater sect occupied over 100 acres of spiritual fields in the Dao sect. Do you know about this? The elder of the Blackwater sect looked away with some nervousness. He really knows. Before the decline of Daoist sect, it could actually be considered a first-class sect. However, with the decline of the sect, the things under its control were also divided among various major sects, and their Blackwater sect took advantage of this opportunity to occupy a lot of resources. Ling said calmly, so it's only natural for me to take some compensation, right? Speaking of this, Ling felt a bit depressed. Although she was going to collect debts from thousands of households, she didn't pay them and brought back trouble. I hope this little trouble is really, as he said, very good at making money. The elder of the Blackwater sect was filled with frustration and couldn't refute it. Ling stood up and wandered around. When she saw something that closed her eyes, she put it in her storage bag. Elder Heishui's eyes were wide and round, with blood streaks faintly visible, and his heart was dripping with blood. Is this woman a devil? Her eyes are so poisonous, and what she carries away are all 100-year-old spiritual medicines. Even their entire sect doesn't have many plants. Enough. Don't pick any more. Ling gave him a light glance and said, what's enough? You've taken away the entire spiritual field, where is this? The elder of Blackwater Sect is going crazy. He stared helplessly at the lush black water, revealing his bare roots. His expression changed from grief and anger to decadence and numbness. Why did the sect send him to take charge of Blackwaters, eh? Why doesn't he send more people? Why provoke this madman? The person also understood and said, these things have grown for hundreds of years and are all old. I helped solve them and even left a thoughtful root. Thank you very much. Elder Heishui only felt a fishy sweetness in his throat, his eyes rolled, and his anger fainted. Tisk. Ran Ling shook her head, this elder is not very good. Passing by somewhere, she suddenly let out a soft, hey, sound, squatted down, and pressed her slender fingers on the ground, her expression becoming strange. There is such a rich wooden element here, and there is actually a fire attribute array set up below. I'm afraid it's not a case of seeking death. It's not my business. She patted her buttocks and stood up, flipping the bulging storage bag and smiling. Glancing at Xie Heng's situation. I can't wake up for a moment. After thinking for a moment, she set a barrier for him and left the Blackwater sect. Ran Ling's appearance was too eye-catching, and she transformed into an ordinary person, wandering in the crowd. After drinking tea and eating a few steamed buns, she looked from a distance towards the barren mountain peaks of Daoist sect. The grandchildren of the Wan family are joining forces with the Lu family and the Heishui sect to capture the people of the Daoist sect. She is still promoting it with great fanfare that if she doesn't come out within 3 days, she will collect corpses for disciples of the Daoist sect. Can't you afford to threaten her if you can't open the barrier? This is what you forced me to do. Ran Ling stuffed the last steamed bun into her mouth and flashed straight towards Wan Jia. Wan Fu still looks loose, and the vast majority of its disciples have been sent out to arrest people. Ran Ling sneaked in like a leisurely stroll in the courtyard. That's it here. Wan Fu Treasure House. Ran Ling narrowed her eyes and stared at the magnificent building in front of her. The 10-meter-high pitch black gate, made entirely of century-old black iron, is incredibly hard and has no plaques. The entrance is set up with layers of formations, and once touched, it will raise the alarm of the entire mansion. I'm cautious, but I can only stop others. Ran Ling reached out her hand, her red robe wide, accentuating her slender and white wrists. Her slender fingers quickly pinched a few white spells, and the teleportation formation on the soles of her feet appeared. With a slight hum, she disappeared completely. Upon reappearing, she appeared in the vault. The poor dyed spirit almost blinded. Rows by rows, there are all kinds of secrets, top-quality minerals, century-old elixirs, antiques, weapons, etc., like a vast sea of smoke. The top cannot be seen, and the end cannot be seen to the extreme. Tears of envy flowed from the corners of my mouth. This is the foundation of the 6 major forces in Yunzhou. She immediately took out her account book and said, Wanja snatched several shops in Yunzhou. After calculation, it would be around 30,000 high-quality spirit stones. Yunzhou has a good geographical boundary and must increase the price, including years of overdue interest. As well as her mental loss expenses, it's not too much to ask for 100,000 yuan. She chuckled twice and began to sweep around. Wanjia is indeed cautious, with secret techniques set on every treasure, but for Ranling, it is optional. An hour later, Ranling stopped and looked at the area that had not yet been cleaned, with a regretful expression on her face. Immortals are also constrained by the Tao, and doing too many immoral things can damage their merits. It's okay, she can't take it. Let's take a look at the overall situation. Half an hour later, Ran Ling looked at the dozen or so plaques at the end of the vault, lost in thought. No wonder they have a strong family background, blessed by their ancestors. She scanned past and suddenly paused at a certain plaque. The spirit throne of Ancestor Wanrongnian died. The original body had been entangled with him several hundred years ago. I've been dead for over 200 years. Ling was somewhat shocked, picked up the family record book on the altar, and found a page from Wanrongnian. Name: Wanrongnian Ancestor. Danzhou cause of death. Pursued by someone, a powerful cultivator, who has the ability to kill him. Ling was puzzled and put the booklet back. After leaving the treasure trove, she lifted her eyes and looked at a tall and perky building in the Wan family. With a loud slap. After a moment, a hoarse voice pierced through the clouds. Someone. Thieves have entered the mansion. Thieves have entered. Catch the thieves. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Can't Fly. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Can't Fly. Wanfu vibrates. The disciples sent out were recalled one after another, and hundreds of figures ran around the vast Wanfu, causing the ground to tremble. You, go this way. Take someone over there. Don't miss a corner. Let me search carefully. Ling hid in a dark corner, her dark eyes staring out with interest. Passing by someone in front of her, she caught one. Looking at the children who were caught, Ling was extremely satisfied with a pair of frightened eyes. But she quickly became worried again. I want to take you away, but my storage bag can't hold any living things. She turned around and sighed sorrowfully, pulling out a shiny knife from her waist. Don't get excited. All the disciples of the 10,000 families were about to be scared to pee, and one of them said with a bloodless face, I have the Qianquan diagram. Don't use the knife, let's talk well. Oh, Ling withdrew the knife and looked surprised. I didn't expect you to have such a treasure. Take it out and I'll take a look. The disciple was about to nod when his eyes suddenly turned and he said, then you need to help me loosen my hands and feet. Ling Xiao said, sure. The white ribbon tied to the person returned to Ling's finger, and the disciple reached his right hand into his left sleeve, carefully pulling out something and occasionally glancing at Ling. Ling was not in a hurry, her hands wrapped around her chest, and her eyes looked at him with interest. At this moment, footsteps sounded outside, and a group of disciples were passing by in a bustling manner. The disciple's eyes suddenly lit up. Ling suddenly whispered in his ear, children who deceive will be punished. The disciple's finger trembled, but he still threw out the thing he had found. You're really naughty. Ling watched his movements, raised her eyebrows, her middle finger closed together, and her fingertips lit up with a hint of white light, instantly hooking. A huge suction suddenly struck. In an instant, the group of disciples outside were all brought in by Ling. The disciple's face stiffened. However, the thing thrown by the disciple luckily rushed outside. That's a warning fireworks display. A glimmer of hope appeared in his eyes. Everyone's face lit up with joy. Pushi. Amidst everyone's anticipation, the fireworks puffed out 2 strong puffs of smoke, splashing out a few sparks. With a puff sound, they stopped working. Everyone. Is this the power of the plague god? The disciple's face suddenly turned pale. Suddenly falling from heaven to hell, the light in his eyes dimmed. As soon as the captured team showed a frightened look, they were disarmed and tied into fried dough twists. Team Disciple. Why bother? Ling took out his knife again and patted the disciple's stiff, slightly baby fat face with the handle, smiling. What do you want? Before the word death could be finished, the disciple's teardrops suddenly rolled down, as if scared out of his wits. He looked at Ling's gaze as if he was looking at the devil. Don't kill me. Don't kill me. I'm still young, old, and young, and I don't want to die. I'm not tasty. I started hiccuping while crying. Ling. Who really wants to eat you, you coward? She said expressionlessly, hand over the things. The disciple burst into tears, glanced at her, and entrusted Chu Baba to place the scroll in Ran Ling's hand. Ran Ling raised his hand to erase the imprint on the Qianquan diagram, and with a wooden face, he took in a group of disciples. "Why are you crying so ugly?" After stirring up Wanfu, Ran Ling quietly slipped back to the Blackwater Zay. Blackwater Zay was too quiet, and Ran Ling stepped in and raised her eyebrows. Her right foot fell into a powerful formation trap. Within the barrier, a man in a black robe, upon hearing the commotion, opened his eyes and gave her a clear glance, his tone unclear. "I thought you ran away. How could that be?" Ran Ling man said casually, "You've caused trouble again." Xie Heng calmly stated the fact, "If you don't treat their territory so cleanly, I shouldn't have been discovered either." Ran Ling. A group of disciples of the Blackwater sect rushed out from the corners of the four directions and surrounded the Ran spirit. The elder who was in charge of Blackwater Zay was carried out by someone, and his body was imprisoned by the spirit-stained spirit, unable to move. He only glared at her with a pair of resentful eyes. Ran Ling smiled lightly and said, "Stare again, I don't mind digging out your eyeballs." Elder Heishui. All the disciples trembled in unison. Is the rumored plague god so bloody and terrifying? You can't move to dig people's eyes. Elder Heishui's lips twitched twice and his eyes stiffened as he moved away. You came just in time, saving me time, Ran Ling smiled eerily. The disciples watched her with caution and panic. God of plague, don't talk nonsense. This formation even requires some effort to transform the spirit. With such strong support on their mouths, they were at a loss. After all, no one knew what level this lecherous plague god had reached. Is that so? Ran Ling lifted his right foot and directly pulled the entire formation up, then stomped the ground fiercely. The bound formation suddenly shattered, and even the ground showed spider web-like cracks. The crowd gasped for air and took a step back in fear. Is this plague god really human? Ran Ling's palm offered a scroll of images and wrote lightly, the Qianquan map, close. Buzz. A buzzing sound. Several hundred disciples present, including the unlucky elder of the Blackwater sect, were all taken in. The Qianquan diagram is not actually a good magic tool, it is just a high-level yellow level, which can be placed in the hands of Ran Ling, but can exert its 120% effectiveness. She withdrew the Qianquan diagram and looked at Xie Heng. Are you still healing? Xie Heng. Healing is possible, but he is afraid that in the next second, the entire Blackwater sect will come after him. He shook his head. Ran Ling withdrew the barrier and said, let's go then. Where are we going? The Lu family. Xie Heng hesitated for a few seconds and said, did you just go? Wanjia. Xie Heng won't ask, anyway she definitely didn't do anything good. Ran Ling flew up in the wind, then looked at a phoenix on the ground that remained motionless for a moment. He frowned and said, what are you doing? The man's blue hair was disheveled, his thin lips pursed, and his beautiful eyes locked onto her. His jaw was clear and elegant, I can't fly. Ran Ling. Do you know that you are a phoenix? She gritted her teeth, waved her fingertips, and brought Xie Heng to her, placing her arm on his wrist, feeling more and more frightened as she explored. This can also be considered as a few days of recuperation, but his body is still so weak, like broken bones and muscles, soft and powerless. Not only is the wound he forcefully broke through not fully healed, but his blood awakening is also incomplete. She inputted a few immortal powers before barely repairing several more serious wounds. After a moment, she looked at him and said, what's wrong with you? Born like this. Xie Heng seemed indifferent and leaned towards her. Ran Ling grabbed him all at once and resisted, saying, I'll find something to pick you up. Looking at the beautiful woman's frowning expression, she added, being too close to me will kill you. No, Xie Heng skillfully leaned against her shoulder, his approaching voice deep and sexy. I can only sleep well with you. Closing his eyes, there were large patches of blood, and he kept falling. Only by getting close to her can we not think of anything. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Bring one get two. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. Bring one get two. Ran Ling. Looking at the pale face of the other person, Xing suppressed the urge to throw him out. If you are not angry, you should accumulate merits. Between the Lu family and the Heishui sect, there is a long river connected to each other. On both sides of the river are lush towering forests, with endless mountain ranges and various monsters living, known as the South Mountain Range. Ran Ling, carrying a personal pendant, was flying a bit tired and caught a golden-winged rock as a means of transportation. Master, there are mature golden red fruits ahead. How about I go pick a few, said the golden-winged Depeng, who appeared very obedient after being beaten. Monsters usually reach the golden elixir stage and enjoy spitting out human words. Golden red fruit. Ran Ling raised her eyebrows. The fruit-bearing golden pattern, named Jin Qi, has a powerful effect on refining the body and is also a good 6th grade alchemy material. Ran Ling nodded and said, okay. There was a hint of humanized cunning in the eyes of golden-winged Dapeng. The guardian of Jin Qigua is its arch-nemesis, relying on his high cultivation to bully others. Now. It's unlucky. Dog egg, come out, your grandfather Peng is here. The golden-winged fox pretended to be a tiger and shouted. Ran Ling. This name. A gust of wind blew in the face, and a 2 to 3 meter tall black eagle suddenly appeared in sight. The steel-cast golden claws tightly clung to the huge golden-red tree trunk, looking down coldly. You're here again. Go Yuan seemed to have been disturbed by someone and was very unhappy. His gaze fell on Peng San's back, and his gaze suddenly became cautious. He even brought someone with him. Peng San sneered, my new owner wants to eat a few golden red fruits from you. Hurry up and offer them obediently, otherwise there will be good fruits to eat. A few black lines fell on Ran Ling's face. Who taught this guy to speak like that? Go Yuanmu looked at it with a face on his face, with an expression of, are you thinking about farting? His whole body tilted out with a cold and intimidating pressure, and Peng San reflexively became aroused. Hurry up and get out of here with the people, then call me dog egg, or I'll waste you. Okay, you kid. Peng San exhaled a rough breath from his nostrils, and Wei Chu Baba turned around and pretended, Master Dog Egg, let's get out of here. Ran Ling couldn't bear it anymore and slapped Peng San on the forehead. His face remained expressionless and he said, speak up well. Peng San. Why can that man lie in his master's arms like a soft bag, and if he acts coquettishly, he will be beaten? How unfair. Ran Ling looked up at Go Yuan with a condensed expression, are you practicing cannibalism? What? The autistic Peng San looked up in surprise and looked at it with a look that seemed like he had only met a dog egg today. Go Yuan's eyes showed surprise, and he glanced at his own nest. He shook his head in an unfriendly tone and said, no. Ran Ling Dao said, then why is there human breath in your nest? Go Yuan didn't want to answer. It doesn't want to talk too much to this seemingly dangerous human who has a golden red fruit idea. Ran Ling Dao said, speak up. The faint words seemed to carry the majesty of the heavenly way, and the dog egg's heart was shaken when it was captured. It instinctively opened its mouth and said, he drifted in the river for several days and almost got eaten by another guy. I picked him up. After thinking for a moment, it added, I didn't want to kill him. Ran Ling's eyes turned into white pupils, piercing through layers of barriers and looking at the baby in the nest, wrapped in swaddling clothes. Can you see his parents? No, Go Yuan firmly said, he was abandoned. It fell silent, as if thinking of something. It turned its head to look at the little baby in its nest and lowered its head dejectedly. Take him away, I'll give you 3 golden red fruits. Let me take it away. Ran Ling looked at its expression and suddenly spoke with interest, don't you want to raise it? Go Yuan suddenly looked up, like a big dog, with clear eyes. Can I keep it? Nature, as long as you can take care of him, Ran Ling said with a smile at the corner of her eyes. After a moment of silence, Go Yuan shook his head and said, I can protect him, but I cannot teach him. He is ultimately a human. How will the human side view a child raised by a monster in the future? The relationship between humans and monsters has always been one of mutual slaughter. Ran Ling's arm was a bit numb from being pressed, so she changed her posture and hugged Xie Heng into her arms. She smiled at Go Yuan like a fox, or maybe there's another way. You can come with me and take him with you, can't you? At that moment, Go Yuan felt that this person was deceiving him. How could it be so easily fooled with its intelligence? Can you also take this golden red tree with you? I have to guard it. Peng San. It turns out that it's not really lacking in heart and eye. Ran Ling's smile became even more amiable, of course I can. Bring one get two, what good luck did she leave today? In this case, I will send you a fortune. Ran Ling's right hand spread out, and suddenly, the aura of heaven and earth, the essence of vegetation and plants from 10 miles around gathered towards her hands. Various miraculous medicines rose from the ground, and a dozen golden red fruits came spinning, floating in her palm, and was pinched by her hand. Bang! The aftermath of the 6th grade pill becoming a pill instantly dispersed. Go Yuan was forced to take a half step back, and his feathers almost flew away. His eagle eyes were filled with shock, staring motionless at Ran Ling's hands. There are 10 golden red pills there. And the quality is flawless, it is top-notch. Peng San's eyes turned 180 degrees, staring blankly at this terrifying scene. Isn't it said that human alchemy is very difficult? This is simply a matter of casually pinching it. What kind of realm is its owner? The materials are limited, so you can only barely refine a 6th grade. Ran Ling waved casually in 10 pills lined up, flying in front of Go Yuan. But it's enough for you to break through and transform your spirit. Go Yuan looked at the 10 round pills in front of him in shock and silently swallowed his saliva. Such a terrifying person should also disdain to calculate on him as a little baby. Master, what about me? Peng San was so aggrieved that he was about to cry. It was the bird that followed its owner first. Why didn't it have any fart? Ran Ling said helplessly, the main materials of Jin Qi Dan are all provided by Gooden himself. If you find the materials, I will naturally refine them for you. Before Peng San could speak, Go Yuanmu blushed and said, my name is Go Yuan. Ran Ling. Quickly shaking the pan and saying, this has nothing to do with me. Go Yuan's murderous gaze fell on Peng San. Peng San coughed twice and said, what's that, master? Remember what you promised me, I'll go find the materials later. Ran Ling responded and stared at Jin Chishu, whispering, get up. The earth trembled, the river was cut off, countless birds were startled, and the land occupied by the huge roots of the golden crimson tree was completely uprooted by the dyed spirit. In its original position, a huge pit of 100 zhang appeared. Ran Ling controlled the golden red tree to shrink and merge into the Qianquan map, while directing the distant river water into the giant pit. In just a moment, tranquility returned to this place, with only an additional lake and a towering tree missing out of thin air. Go Yuan became smaller, holding the baby with his wings and landing on Peng San's back, causing him to scream uncontrollably. He wished he could pull it down. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Lu Family Ancestor. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8 Lu Family Ancestor. It's the owner's mount, not this bald eagle's, damn thing. Get it out of here. It wasn't until Ran Ling glanced at him calmly that he calmed down like a quail. The little baby in swaddling clothes is pitifully thin and weak, with a waxen face and weak breathing. It looks ugly and cute, and is a premature baby. Now I am somewhat satisfied and asleep. Go to the Lu family. Ran Ling's eyes fell on the little baby, a bit strange. She ordered Peng San, what did you feed him? Go Yuan stood aside with his wings folded, his furry face expressionless. A couple of wolves next door have given birth, and I went over to get some milk. He said it will never say how difficult the process of breastfeeding is. Peng San murmured inwardly. Do you want it? Can you be more gentle, you dog pussy? Ran Ling's gaze paused on Go Yuan's wings, his eyes shining with praise. You're amazing. Go Yuan's body tightened and he tilted his head, as if he was a bit shy. Ran Ling smiled and said, then he will entrust you with full responsibility from now on. Is there any problem? The people of Daoist have all fled, which is a huge burden. Go Yuan's mouth moved and he felt a bit embarrassed. It's just a demonic beast that hasn't transformed yet and doesn't have any money. If you have any difficulties, you can bring them up. Go Yuan nodded solemnly as he looked at Shang Ranling with hopeful eyes, carrying a heavy burden on his shoulders. Let me handle it, he said Peng San. Ranling is very satisfied, and the child can be taught. Ask again, did you choose a name? Go Yuan tilted his furry head and said, I don't know how to take it. Peng San was very interested in this matter and his eyes rolled. Let's call him Peng Si. I'll take him as my little brother and cover him up, he said Ran Ling. Why don't you recognize him as your son? Go Yuan. The beauty you want. Go Yuan looked at Ran Ling. Ran Ling pondered the meaning of its gaze and said, do you want me to take it for him? Go Yuan nodded. Ran Ling. It seems that she looks like a cultured person. After pondering for a moment, she spoke up and said, the kite has the meaning of an eagle. Today, we are tied together with golden red fruits and take a deficit. How about calling it the red kite? Red kites. Go Yuan's eagle eyes were wide and round, showing a sense of joy. Not to mention the meaning of the kite, its pronunciation is also the same as its abyss. This human is really good. Master, the Lu mansion is coming, Peng San reminded in frustration. Ran Ling lifted her eyes. The mountains are undulating, with a thin mist and mist. On the mountaintop, there is a huge complex of buildings, and the bell-shaped cauldron is beautiful. If Wanfu is a luxury in the world, Heishui Sect is the sect of plants and trees, then Liuzong is the realm of immortal mansion. Ran Ling couldn't help but recall the tall and bare mountain gate of Daoist. She closed her eyes, and when she opened them, a cold and merciless light flickered in her eyes, like the hatred of the poor and the rich. You too, help me catch people. 2 days passed by in a flash. At the foot of Daoist Mountain, it's lively like an ant colony poured with hot oil. Damn it, that plague god is really deceiving people too much. Just arrest our sect's disciples and even take away all the spiritual chickens and cows raised by our sect. Lu Qinyan was furious. The leader of the Blackwater sect was equally angry and shattered a huge rock with one palm. That woman has wiped out all of my Blackwater and taken away hundreds of core disciples. Wan Hongguan's forehead was swollen with anger. He thought his mansion was safe and sound, but upon returning to investigate, a large amount of treasure disappeared from the treasury, and hundreds of people were also missing. If it weren't for that plague god, he would stand upside down and eat shit. Wan Bai's dog thing is also missing. I think several carts of spiritual plants have been fed into the stomach of the plague god, and when I think about it, he will be angry and vomiting blood. Damn it, it's all Daoist and these guys. What are you doing to release that lunatic for? He's trying to harm us with intent. Lin Yinxiu and fellow disciples of Daoist, who were bound by various colors on the side, looked around with a pair of red and hostile eyes, and their expressions were extremely bewildered as they looked at each other. Be good, are the people there talking about their ancestors? She is clearly a lazy person who has achieved nothing, is timid and stingy, likes to flirt with people, and spends money like flowing water during the refining period. How come after a few days of absence, it has become a terrifying presence in the mouths of top forces, possessing ambitious leopard big courage, killing people, setting fire, and robbing money in lust? Lin Yunxiu wanted to defend himself, but he was too clear about how much his ancestors could eat. He hesitated and said, "Did you make a mistake? Close your stinky mouth." The people around rolled their eyes. "Do you think we're blind? Who doesn't know that face? Shut up, just shut up. What's the point of cursing?" Lin Yunxiu didn't get angry even after being scolded, and a hint of pride rose in his heart. His beard curled leisurely. "It seems that this matter is absolutely certain. My ancestor is really successful. It's not in vain for him to take a bite of food and soup to support his elderly family. However, with so many people waiting, I don't know if my ancestor can handle them." Thinking of this, Lin Yunxiu became worried again. Wan Hongguan and the others are still discussing. What should we do now? With just a dozen or so people from Daoist zone, I'm afraid they won't threaten that plague god. Lu Qinyan sighed, "The people from our 3 sects combined are all over 1,000, and they are all first-class seedlings that cannot be compared to Daoist zone's crooked melons and cracked dates." The crooked melons and cracked dates said, "Are you polite? Blackwater sect leader. Why don't we have a fight with her?" Wan Hongguan and Lu Qinyan looked bewildered and looked at him speechlessly. The lesson from being beaten last time was not profound enough. They never expected that one day they would be forced into such a situation. Yay! A loud cry pierced through the clouds, coming from the horizon and blocking the sun. "What is it?" said Wan Hongguan and his 3 companions, their mental reflexes trembling a strong aura. The 3 forces quickly set up their formation and stood ready, encircling the Daoist zone with more than 10 hostages in the middle. From a distance, there was a considerable formation. The golden-winged peng fell to the ground with a loud bang, shaking up a cloud of dust. The strong wind from its huge wings shook everyone, causing them to tremble. Its sharp eyes, towering above it, shimmered with a cold radiance. Many disciples were frightened by this behemoth, their legs trembling and their faces turning pale. Golden-winged bird. Why did it come here? Does it want to go to war with our sect? Wan Hongguan stood at the front and warned, "Why are you here? Please leave quickly, we won't investigate. The current situation is special, it's better not to cause any other disturbances. Otherwise, it's impossible to take its demon pill. It seems that everyone doesn't welcome me very much." Suddenly, a cold and smiling female voice came from the back of Dapeng, like a jade pendant striking each other. Everyone looked up in amazement, only to see the women in red clothes lined up, with clear ink hair, so beautiful that it was suffocating. "Grandfather." The eyes of Daoist zone's people lit up. Next to the woman, the black-robed man bent one knee and rested his arm on his knee, supporting his eyebrows. His raised phoenix eyes casually scrutinized the group. Wan Hongguan. What? They didn't even notice that there was someone on top of Jinpeng. In an instant, the tense atmosphere present once again elevated a level. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. I give you a face. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. I give you a face. Surprisingly, the great Peng of the Yuanying period belongs to that plague god. Lying down, I have a feeling that we can't beat each other. Don't talk about you, I really think so too. I've seen a ghost. There is a standoff between the 2 sides here, and there are also many people watching the fire from a nearby mountain. The head of Daoyan sect, wearing his sleeves, glanced at the silver-faced man with a smile and said, "Master Su, who do you think they will win?" The silver-faced man glanced at him and said, "Don't you talk nonsense." The head of Daoyan sect said mysteriously, "When I came over, I seemed to hear that the ancestor of the Lu family has passed the level. What? The silver-faced man was surprised and turned to ask Sujio for confirmation. Elder Sujio, is this true? Sujio nodded while the old god was present. The reason why the 6 major forces can become the top strength of Dongmai is not only due to their rich background, but also because behind each force, there are some heavyweight things sitting in power. This ancestor of the Lu family is rumored to have reached the Mahayana realm. In time, he can overcome the thunder calamity and ascend to immortality. So what's going on next? Suyi looked at the head of the Daoyen sect. Why are you laughing so lowly? Did you divine? The head of the Daoyen sect stiffened as he rubbed the copper coin in his long sleeve, then turned his head and stared at him speechlessly, getting further away. Elder Sujio smiled slightly. On the other side, Wan Hongguan's face darkened as he questioned Ran Ling, what exactly do you want to do? What a strange question you're asking. Ran Ling jumped off the golden winged dapeng and fell in front of everyone, startling them to take a step back. Didn't you start first? Wan Hong, half dead in anger, stared at Xie Hang and said, who started first? Why did you come to my Wan family for no reason? You even stole the phoenix of our master. Xie Hang pursed his beautiful curved lips in displeasure and squinted at Wan Hongguan. Who is his phoenix? He also deserves it. Collecting debts. Ran Ling was very innocent. A few years ago, you robbed the resources of Daoist Zone. Now, I have regained them and added some interest. Wan Hongguan, Lu Qinyan and others are about to vomit blood, whose interest rate is so high. Oh no, it also adds interest. The hearts of the disciples of the Daoist sect gazed at each other without saying a word, their eyes overflowing with excitement. How refreshing. Ancestor, you're amazing. As for the little phoenix, whoever catches it will be theirs. Ran Ling bent her eyes and said, if you don't agree, come up and grab it. Xie Hang tilted his head slightly and looked at the figure in red, with silver blue hair flowing down his shoulders and a hint of pleasure in his eyes. Shao Ti's words sound grand. The leader of the Blackwater sect was extremely irritable. I see that you and that phoenix are clearly having an affair. Ran Ling. Xie Hang. The disciples of the Daoist sect said. Do they have their 33rd ancestor? After a moment of silence, Ran Ling changed the topic and said, what are you going to do now, fight or let go? You're so silly. Wan Hongguan's face turned black like the bottom of a pot, and he reluctantly said, we exchange hostages. She has grasped this lifeline. Sure, Ran Ling nodded and waved to grab a handful of people. Everyone looked at their sect leader with a tearful expression and a deep sense of self-blame for embarrassing their sect. Wan Hongguan and the 3 of them fiercely twitched their lips. Lu Qinyan had no face and stared at the noticeably fewer people, questioning, where are the others? Ran Ling was surprised and said, can't you? You're not thinking of exchanging a few people for thousands of me, are you? It's already very cheap to exchange 2 for 1, is it? Everyone. Everyone. Is exchange done this way? What kind of trouble is her appearance of, you guys can't take any advantage of it? You. The leader of the Blackwater sect felt his blood pressure rising, took a deep breath, suppressed his raging anger, and asked, aren't you afraid that I'll kill them all? Ran Ling blew her fingernails and casually said, kill me. Anyway, they have thousands of excellent disciples to bury with them. The disciples of the Daoist sect said, Are we still not your ancestors anymore? What about the others? What do you want? Wan Hongguan squeezed out a few words from his teeth. It's easy to say. Ran Ling hooked her lips, lend me a month and promise to return it as a whole when it expires. Silence, a strange silence. Just as Wan Hongguan and others were looking at each other in pairs, ready to agree, an old but powerful voice spread from all directions in an instant, with a terrifying aura that made everyone's calves tremble and their expressions look anxious. What a majestic aura is Master Ranling. Ranling's eyes lit up with interest. Another old and immortal jumped out. Lu Qinyan was extremely familiar with the voice, and his eyes suddenly lit up. Ancestor. My ancestor actually passed the level, that's great. Now there's finally no need to hold back so much. We must make our ancestors torture this damn woman well. In shock, Wan Hongguan exchanged a glance with the leader of the Blackwater sect, and his rising anger slowly subsided, with a happy smile on his lips. What kind of person is the ancestor of the Lu family? That woman may have beaten them, but she is definitely not a match for the ancestor of the Lu family. It seems that they can watch a good show now. Great, the ancestor of the Lu family has passed the pass. Finally, we can win back one game. The old man who was feeling frustrated just now wanted to cry. Woo 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 woo, just kill this plague god. The disciples of the three sects were excited and seemed to have anticipated the tragic fate of Ranling. The people of Daoist turned pale and broke out in cold sweat. I'm sorry for this. Ranling was about to say hello to the old man of the Lu family when suddenly his expression paused, and sporadic coldness burst out from his pitch-black eyes. Shwa. There is no cloud for thousands of miles, a pair of rough and ugly giant hands like eagle claws, but they are like mountains pressing on the top. Between lightning, fire, and stones, they poke out from the air and fiercely grab Xiehang. Speak east and strike west. He appears to be dealing with Ranling, but in reality, he is coveting the rare phoenix divine beast. The chill of annihilating the top approached, and Xiehang's face tightened, instantly revealing the true body of the phoenix. The cold frost swept across the four directions, and his spiritual energy was fully mobilized by him. As a divine beast, Xiehang's physical weakness can make even Ranling feel uneasy. It is imaginable how far he has fallen. Under this crisis, all the wounds that have gradually healed in the past few days have collapsed. At that moment, no one knew they hadn't seen Ranling's movements clearly. I saw her flash in front of Xiehang in the blink of an eye, her face stained with frost and her lips bloodthirsty. She easily captured the terrifying giant hand, and her voice quenched with ice. I gave you face, dare you catch someone in front of me? What? The ancestor of the Lu family, hidden in space, showed shock under his drooping eyelids, and his lips couldn't stop trembling. How could it be? Ranling grabbed the wrist of the Lu family ancestor with his back hand, dragged it out of the space, spun around, and fiercely threw it out. Roaming. Like a sunny thunderstorm, the tremendous impact shattered several peaks one after another, and then continued to sweep forward. The place it passed by was in chaos, and it took 100 miles to finally stop. Then there was no movement at all. Lu Qinyan let out a scream and chased in the direction of the Lu family's ancestor, saying, Ancestor. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. 7th Grade Holy Fruit. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10 7th Grade Holy Fruit. Everyone couldn't help but swallow their saliva, shocked and horrified. Difficult, is it dead? What kind of person is the ancestor of the Lu family? His cultivation is profound and unfathomable. In the hearts of countless people, he is almost no different from a real immortal. Now, a face-to-face kung fu has been transformed into this by a qi refining period. They feel everything in front of them is so absurd. Wan Hongguan and the leader of the Blackwater sect are half open, but they cannot accept this fact. If even the ancestor of the Lu family is not a match for that plague god, her strength. Thinking of this, the two of them shivered together. The three sides watching the play from afar looked at each other. Although the leader of Daoist's sect divined this result, his scalp was still shocked and numb with his own eyes. The people of Daoist were also foolish. Is that thunderbolt baby really their ancestor? Ranling withdrew her gaze calmly, as if she had casually dealt with a fly, without any ups and downs in her heart. She just lowered her head and looked at her hand, frowning slightly displeased. Cough. A weak cough came from behind, and Ling turned around and saw the beauty's face without any blood color. Xiaheng coughed with the back of his hand against his lips for a while, and his pale face coughed up a bit of blood. A handkerchief appeared, but his face remained indifferent. He pulled his hand from the side of Ling's body and slowly wiped it off. Ling raised her eyebrows and lowered her eyes. Looking at the other person's white, symmetrical, and slender hands, it was rare to find any resentment. Everyone stared blankly at the two wiping their hands, their minds unsure of what to react to. Only a large number of words like, "These two indeed have an affair," and "Even the ancestor of the Lu family has been beaten away and they are still in the mood to wipe their hands here," quickly flashed through everyone's minds. Hiss. My old waist. Until a furious curse sounded in the sky, everyone was attracted to look over there in unison. The old man in a grey robe was furious, his face stained with embarrassment, and he rushed from afar with a fierce momentum. He was thin and small, with a bent back and drooping eyelids, and his eyes were tightly fixed on Ling. He couldn't figure out why he had only been in seclusion for 100 years, and she was so powerful that she looked like a ghost. Isn't she just in the qi refining period before? Has it not been taken away? The old man followed closely behind Lu Qinyan, with an ugly face. Everyone became excited and said, "Look at this, are we going to fight?" The ancestor of the Lu family flew up to Ling's eyes, but the other person didn't even give him a glance. The two of them seemed to be alone, wiping their hands sticky and sticky. He was so angry that he was about to ascend to heaven on the spot. "All right, there's no feces on his mother's hands again. Have you finished wiping them?" Ling lifted her eyelids and glanced at him. Dark eyes, devoid of emotion, like a dark night full of ink. The ancestor of the Lu family instantly fell silent. After living for almost 10,000 years, he still experienced for the first time the creepy feeling of being stripped naked and having nowhere to hide all his thoughts. He shrank his head. "It seems that your injury is not very serious." Ling suddenly curled her lips and said, "Do you want me to help you?" The evil energy that came rushing towards him made the Lu family's ancestor feel a chill in his heart. When he realized it, he had already taken several steps back. Ling casually scared off the person and coldly withdrew her gaze. "All right." Xiaheng finally finished wiping Ling's hands, looked up at her, slowly folded the handkerchief, placed it in the space, pinched his brow, and couldn't help feeling tired in his eyes. Ling glanced at his colorless lips and said, "Do you want to sleep?" Xiaheng felt uncomfortable, let out a low hum, and reached out to touch the fingertips of Ling. The next second, he transformed into a small entity and fell into the arms of Ling. He curled up in a cold blue, insecure ball and fell into a coma. Ling. This kid is getting better and better at taking advantage. She turned to face the ancestor of the Lu family and politely asked, "What do you think should be done to make him like this?" Lu family ancestor. Your eyes are in your pants, he hasn't even touched him, okay? You're scared, Ling added without any ups and downs in her tone. Lu family ancestor. Facing the opponent's gaze of death, he speechlessly took out a small porcelain bottle from the storage ring and said, "This is the 6th grade vitality and creation pill. Please take it for him." Ling didn't answer, his face expressionless. The ancestor of the Lu family gave a meme. "Why do you still need to make progress?" He took out another square box, rubbed it with his fingers reluctantly, gritted his teeth, and handed it out, 7th grade holy fruit. He cherished this holy fruit for thousands of years, but in the end, it actually had to enter someone else's stomach. Ling's expression finally loosened a bit. Holy fruit, 7 grades and 7 colors, fist-sized fruit, gathers the essence of heaven and earth, has the effect of healing, consolidating and breaking through the realm, without any side effects, which is extremely rare. If an ordinary person eats one, they can leap into the realm of transforming gods, which is equivalent to directly creating a strong person comparable to the 6 major power masters. Eating it in the refining void realm allows you to directly enter the combining realm from refining void. Its preciousness is evident. But it is too rare, only a few exist in the terrifying wilderness secret realm. As soon as the word holy fruit was spoken, there was an instant sensation around, and many people's excited eyes turned red, and their hearts couldn't help but thump. Oh my goodness, it's actually the holy fruit. That's a legendary thing. My mother, the top forces are indeed rich and powerful, and even the holy fruit can be given to people casually. If it were me, I would have to find an altar to offer it. The holy fruit appears, transform into a divine being. Everyone stared passionately at the box containing the holy fruit, drooling. If it weren't for Ran Ling and the ancestor of the Lu family standing there, they would all have wanted to grab it. Even Wan Hongguan and others couldn't help but have a desire in their hearts. Although they have a deep foundation, they also don't have anything like holy fruits. Ancestor, it's impossible. Compared to the others, Lu Qinyan was much more excited. He ran over in a panic, with a fierce expression on his face, and reached out to grab the box. The holy fruit is extremely precious, how can it be given to others? Who exactly are his descendants? He is only in a realm of transforming gods now. It is unimaginable how much this holy fruit has helped him. How dare our ancestors give such things to people? The ancestor of the Lu family dodged on his side and coldly looked at this shameless descendant who dared to commit crimes below. His face was full of dignity, and he directly lifted Lu Qinyan away. You disrespectful thing, get out of here. Lu Qinyan landed in a disheveled state, his face red, blue, and green, like a color palette. Faced with the terrifying expression of his own ancestor, he retreated to the side, clenched his fists, and covered his poisoned eyes. Ancestor Ranling, here it is. Ancestor Lu handed over the box. Ranling said, Jin Peng, here you go. Peng Sanla grew smaller happily, and as a pilgrim, he almost drooled as he took the box containing the holy fruit. The ancestors of the Lu family suspected that it would swallow the holy fruit in the next second. Well. Those disciples of the Lu family, the ancestors of the Lu family rubbed their hands. End of this chapter.